Hey guys, back again. Thought I'm going to try something different on this channel, just to see if you like it. I'm actually just going to do a couple of stories, tell you a couple of stories, true stories by the way, not made up, true stories of what's happened to me over my fishing career, pro and amateur. And just a couple to see how you like it. If it works out well, I'll do a couple more. I've got a handful, and if they work well and you guys like them, I might ask you guys if you got your own fishing stories, you'd like to send them in, and I'll quite happily read them and put them on the channel for you. But they must be true stories. I only want true stories. Well, enough of that. Tonight we'll start off with the one I call a fish of a lifetime. Okay? Back a few years ago, when I was working on the Gold Coast in a fishing tackle store, there were a lot of yellowfin around. Okay? There was plague proportions of yellowfin a few years ago. And we're in the tackle store, me and work colleagues, and people are running into the store telling us they can't get through the yellowfin, they're using lures, they're using baits, dead baits, live baits, didn't matter what people are doing, they were just catching yellowfin. They're only little yellowfin, like 2-3 kilo ones, little rats, but they're in plague proportions and no one could get through them a few years ago. And we'll just listen to this, and throughout the day one of my customers actually brought me in a little yellowfin that he caught. I'm not sure why. I think he's just being nice to give me something to, like a feed. But as he done that, I had a thought. Something just, went off in the head. That time of year there were a lot of whales around. It was the middle of winter. There's westerly winds, whales around, and there were a few cobia. That's what people are trying to catch, but they couldn't get through the yellowfin. So I was throughout the day looking at the weather, kept on looking outside of the weather, and noticing there was no wind, or a very light wind. It was a westerly wind. I was offshore, so I actually called a mate just before closing and asked him if he'd want to go for a night fish with me, and of course he jumped at the chance. So I met him at the ramp at 6 o'clock. After work I had to go home, get the boat ready, go get fuel, get rigged up, and it was at 6 o'clock before I met my friend at the boat ramp. And from the boat ramp we had about I think it's about a 40-minute run roughly up to this wreck. It's a wreck. Okay, so we left the boat ramp, we headed offshore, out through the seaway, offshore, headed north to this wreck. And the time we got there is probably around 7ish at night. It was already dark, and by that stage myself and my friend were both already freezing cold because the westerly had it was cold. It had a real nip to it. And the whole idea, as I was telling my friend as we were heading up there, because he heard about the little yellowfin too and he was wondering why we were going, but he's always up for a fishing trip, I told him yellowfin don't eat yellowfin. Other species eat yellowfin, yellowfin don't eat yellowfin. So I had this little yellowfin on board. I cut into nice strip baits, like about 5-6 inch strip baits, okay, a heap of strip baits. I had this little yellowfin, and by the time we got up north, sounded around, found the wreck. There seemed to be a little bit of life over the wreck. Okay, but this spot is also well known for sharks, a lot of sharks. So the gear we took was fairly heavy. We both took jig sticks, 24 kilo jigging outfits. Okay, just so we could put the brakes on the sharks and everything, get them up and break them up fairly quickly. So when we got there, I had 2 rods, my friend had 1. And in my older videos, you'll see how I rig for cobia. I rig one basically unweighted, or just a small sinker, and let the bait waft down through the water column. The other bait's got a big heavy sinker on it, and I put it down so it's a couple of metres off the bottom, or whatever the depth the bait's sitting at. But this time we're fishing the wreck. It was night time, so I wanted to be a couple of metres off the wreck. So I put the first strip bait down, and that one went down deep. Okay, and then I rigged up, and I had me 2 snelled hooks on, a little tiny sinker, and I had my other strip bait, and that one I just floated down and just down at the back of the boat, feeding line out. And my friend, okay, him with his 1 rod, he done the same thing as my big rod. He just had a bait down deep. He put a bait down deep, put it in the rod holder in gear. My other rod is in the rod holder in gear, and just waiting for the rods to load up, and you're on, go for it. We done that for about an hour and a half. We had a couple of runs, a couple of bite-offs, and that was sharks. So we're just getting sharks on the tuna. Because obviously sharks around the smelly tuna. And I think it was around about 9 o'clock. It was about 9 or a little bit after 9, 10 past 9 or so. I noticed my back rod, or one in the back holder down deep, that one just buckled over. And I was just in a rod holder going. I'm thinking, okay, must be a big shark, a good shark. So I leaned over, I grabbed the rod, put the drag up, just went full lock, and just went hammers and tongs on this fish. Thinking it's a shark, just trying to get to the boat or break it off. Just trying to get it up, just going hard as. And all of a sudden, my friend yelled and nearly gave me a freaking heart attack. Just in the back, you just see a little bit of light around the anchor. The anchor light's up high, so the back of the boat you can see. And just on the edge of the anchor light, you just see this big head come out of the water. And my friend yelled. I didn't see the head to start off with, because I was just, nose head down, just whining, trying to go hammers and tongs. My friend yelled. I nearly jumped out of the freaking boat. And I looked up, and all I saw was a big head as well, and it was a cobia. It was a massive, massive cobia. And from that point there, I remember that adrenaline kicked in. I started shaking, everything went a bit weak, my knees were wobbling, and I was thinking, oh crap. I backed the drag off a little bit, leave it drag, just backed it off a little bit, and then it was just me against this fish. I was just taking it easy after that, because I didn't want to lose it. And I was by no means ready to come to the boat, because I really knuckled down and pulled the poor thing up towards the surface. But when it saw the boat and the light, it just took off. It just all gone. It took off. So I went easier and just started playing it properly. And for 40 minutes, heart was pounding in and out of the chest. I thought, didn't want to lose it. Every little bump you felt, you're thinking the hook's going to pull or straighten or the leader was going to break. Because the size of this head, when we saw this head, I was like, holy crap. It was a big fish, really big fish. And this went on for about 40 minutes, up, to and fro, up and down, around the boat, up and down, short bursts out. That's cobia fight. They're not dirty fighters, but they just don't give up. They just go around and up and down, and they just keep on going and going and going. And this thing, I was on 24 kilo on a G-stick, and it wouldn't stop. It was about 40 minutes, and this is where I nearly had my second heart attack of the night. I knew the fish was tiring, or getting it closer to the boat. It was starting to tire. I was pretty much buggered. I just wanted to pass out. And I asked my friend to get the gaff ready. I remember his voice and what he said. He said no. I asked 3 times, and 3 times I got 3 no's not to get the gaff. He didn't want to gaff it and miss it. He didn't want it. He didn't want the responsibility of this fish. I understand gassing somebody else's fish, especially a fish of a lifetime like this. He didn't want a bar of it. But in the end, he grabbed a gaff. He got the other small gaff, because I got 2 gaffs on my boat. He put the small one in front of me. He got the bigger gaff. And I could just see him with the anchor light, the light in his face. As the cobia come past, I remember this. And I just turned around, I just saw him. He just closed his eyes. And my heart started banging out of the chest, and he went for a swinging shot and his eyes were closed. I thought, you're freaking kidding. Oh, I nearly kicked him over the boat. But you wouldn't believe it, that gaff shot went straight through the freaking head. It was a perfect gaff shot. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't. He had his freaking eyes closed and he had the perfect gaff shot. Straight into the head. Yeah, I can't. Just the look, I just can't remember. I just can't forget that. The look on his face when he opened his eyes, because he knew he had the fish on. He opened his eyes to see when he hit the fish. And as he dragged it towards the boat, I got the other gaff and I swung it into the other side of the head, just this little gaff. Then the 2 of us dragged this thing over on the deck, and the fish hit the deck of me 4.5 metre tinny. And this is one of the platform in a black, and forward and reverse, forward and transom platforms. So you just got the bit in the middle. The tail went one end, the head was on the other end, and the fish was curved a little bit in between. It was as long as I was. Okay, I'm 5'6" or something. It's the same. The cobia, there's old pictures of me holding it up, and the head's here and the tail's bent on the ground. Okay, so it's nearly 6 foot long. This thing was freaking massive. And once we got it on the boat, it's just laying there. It didn't move an inch. It was absolutely buggered. I put my rod in a rod holder. Didn't even get the hooks out of the fish. I laid down next to it, and me and the fish snuggled up on the deck of the boat. I remember that. We just snuggled up together on the deck of the boat. He wasn't moving, I wasn't moving. It was a bugger it. My mate Paul, I could hear him breathing heavy and a sigh of relief that he got the fish. He was so happy. He actually turned around and put a bait back down. I thought, okay, you can fish, I'm just going to stay here. But it only lasted about 10 or 15 minutes. He didn't get a bite. He said, let's go home, get some photos of this fish and, look after it. But the reason we didn't stay, because I didn't notice while I was fighting the fish, adrenaline, but the wind picked up at the westerly and frig it was cold. It was that friggin' cold. It was icy. I mean, what was bloody freezing? I was looking at Paul, and Paul just wanted to go. He was shivering. He looked like the Michelin Man. He had that many freaking jackets on. I'm surprised he'd be able to, wind his rod in. I couldn't believe it. And when I stopped fighting the fish and laid down, I started getting cold. So, at that stage, we upped the anchor. We went for another 40-minute run home. The time we got back to the boat ramp, I couldn't let go of the steering wheel. My hands just frozen to the freaking steering wheel on the boat. I was trying to just undo them, and I looked at Paul, and Paul was just white and rugged up, and he wasn't moving either. We run the boat up on the beach, and we both just sitting there. We could barely move. The Cobia by this time was dead and nearly frozen. Fuck, it was cold. I couldn't believe how cold that night was. Anyway, to finish this story off, we finally got the boat on the trailer, cleaned up. We went to the servo. I bought 5 or 6 bags of ice, and we laid the ice down around, a couple of bags either side of the fish, and then a couple of bags on top with a couple of towels over the top of the fish, and left the fish in the boat until morning. Okay, and it was that freaking cold. There's nothing going to happen to the fish. It was cold. It was bloody freezing. It really was. The next morning, a good friend of mine came around, so I called him to come and have a look. This is another friend. It wasn't the one I took fishing. Come around, he took some photos. He couldn't believe the size of it. Then we took it to the place where I work to put it on the scales. And this is where it gets interesting. That fish was caught at 9 o'clock at night, or about 9:30, quarter to 10, the time we landed it, okay? We didn't get to weigh it, put it on the scales until 10 o'clock the next morning. It was weighed at 10 o'clock the next morning, and it's been on the deck of the boat all night, okay? It still pulled the scales down to 51 kilos. That's a fish of a lifetime. That thing was massive. That really was a big fish. I've been chasing cobia ever since. I've caught it, lots of 20 kilo ones, a few 30 kilo ones. I haven't been over 30 kilos since that fish. I haven't caught a 40 kilo one. I definitely haven't hooked a 50 kilo one. I don't think I'll ever break it. My friend, he still talks about it nowadays. When I see him, he tells people about it. He's got photos, he shows people. He was proud to be there and be a part of it, and he was a part of it. Without him, I would never have caught it. I would never have got it over the side. So he had an awesome gaff shot, even though he closed his freaking eyes and took a lucky swing, but it worked. So thank you very much. It worked. Yeah. After that, we filled it and we fed half the. Well, I was at the Gold Coast at this stage. We fed half the Gold Coast with that fish, and it was just an awesome night. And just proves one thing, guys. Back then, like I said, people are going out and they're catching baby yellowfin, everywhere. They'll play proportion, okay? And everyone's going out throwing live baits and pilchards and everything else, squid, and even lures and catching yellowfin. You got to just think outside the box a bit. That's when I, thought outside the box. Tuna don't eat tuna. So, they were being a plague, they were being a pest. We used it as bait. Got a couple of sharks early on. I didn't catch the sharks, we got bitten off and we knew they were sharks. And then that big boy just come out of nowhere and nailed it. And we thought it was a shark to start off with until it bullied it to the boat and its head came out of the water. Yeah, and gave us both a hell of a fright. So don't be scared to try different things. If something seems a bit unusual or whatever, just think outside the box, okay? Well, I hope you enjoyed that story. That's the first one. Let me know down in the comments if you like that story. I've got a few other ones from my pro fishing career. Some of them a couple of them are really out there. You're going to think, no way that didn't happen, but it did. So these are true stories. These have happened. Let me know if you want to hear some more, and we'll add a few more in there. And if you guys have got some stories and you'd like me to read them out on the channel, yeah, send them to, there's an email, business email in the description. Just send me the stories there and I'll read them out online on the channel. Just make sure they're true, guys. I just want true stories, okay? Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video. For fishing, rigging, telling stories, whatever it is. But I'll see you shortly, guys.